Give me a little intro there, Gomer.
There's no turning back now.
Let's put on the show.
You're listening to the Station 71 podcast. My name is Mario, and this week I'm joined by my co-hosts,
Beth
and Brian.
So this week we have kind of an interesting topic for you guys. It was brought to us by a couple people that they wanted to hear us talk about the history of Pandora, the world of Avatar. And we started to talk about that, but then it kind of spiraled into what IPs has Disney had in their parks that really weren't Disney IPs. Just to give you a little taste of what we're going to dive into tonight. But of course, as always, we're going to dive into some news topics first. Looks like the first thing on our list of news topics is that we got a rumor that we kind of discussed very briefly, pretty recently actually, confirmed. It looks like Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway is actually delayed until 2020, but in other news, Disneyland is also getting Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway in 2022.
It's just weird to me that I feel like Disney obviously knew for a long time that they weren't going to meet their previously announced opening date, and they waited until like right before it was supposed to open to say, yeah, it's definitely not opening now.
Do you guys have any theories on why it's not opening on time? Because I have one.
Ooh, I want to hear this.
Okay, so
my
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say my really quick theory is that they have a hard enough time keeping things on track as it is, and they're putting all of their focus into Galaxy's Edge. But
that's kind of how mine is too, because I think it's a little odd that one, we didn't get a Galaxy's Edge opening date until like fairly close to when they wanted to open it. And alongside that, you know, Disney has said that they're only rolling out with one attraction at the start, which everybody kind of praised as like an initial, oh, this is a really good idea and a good way to do crowd control. I think that what happened was Disney got held up somewhere and they decided to pull everyone off of every project in Hollywood studios and focus on one little thing in Galaxy's Edge, which may have been Rise of the Resistance, and I'm thinking that Rise of the Resistance is what held them up, and that's why that one's opening first. That's why they put everyone towards that attraction. Or Smuggler's Run got held up, and they moved everyone off of that to focus on getting an attraction open for Galaxy's Edge. But I think that was what their thing was because originally we talked about this when it was announced, and this was like the kind of crowd funnel away from Galaxy's Edge. Now, what else is in studios without this attraction and like the other two e-tickets that they have? They're going to be swamped.
Yeah, and especially now that it's going to be opening after Galaxy's Edge opens, I felt like, I don't know, that was kind of the main point of this ride, was to kind of add something else in there that would draw some crowd away. But now it's like, I feel like when it opens, people aren't going to care that much.
Yeah. I don't know, that's kind of where I fall with it. I'm afraid that this is going to end up at a point where no one's really going to care too much about it because everyone's going to be so busy worrying about Galaxy's Edge.
Yeah.
But next up we have a Beauty and the Beast bar is coming to the Grand Floridian. Now, in me saying that, I don't want anyone to think that I'm talking about the animated classic Beauty and the Beast. No, this is the live-action remake. Did you guys...
I just... this is mind-boggling to me. It's like, the hotel's literally called the Grand Floridian. Like, what does that have to do with Beauty and the Beast?
Yeah.
It's a good point. I mean, I feel like the kind of like the art style though that they use with the live action will blend in well, at least with the decor in Grand Floridian, but
it just doesn't seem kosher to me.
oh, definitely not.
It's like, hey, where can we throw a Beauty and the Beast themed bar? Grand Floridian. There we go. Yep. That's relevant somehow.
Had either of you been to the bar that was previously here, or the lounge that was previously here? What did you think about it?
I mean, it's really small. Like, unless they're planning on expanding it, I don't really see how this is going to be as big a deal as they're trying to make it be.
Oh, did you read what, like, everything in this article that I linked? Because I guess maybe we should talk about the design that they're going for with it too.
Oh yeah, no, I didn't get that far.
So the lounge is going to be 4 parts. So right off the bat, it's aiming pretty high. The signature bar area is going to feature a gold chandelier inspired by Belle's ball gown as the centerpiece. And a motif of the Beast's magical rose will appear throughout the room. Visitors could... okay, so there's also a library room as well, which is going to have just like wall-to-wall books. There's a garden room that's inspired by the enchanted forest that surrounds the Beast Castle, and an outdoor patio area that will be reminiscent of the castle's terrace. So unless these rooms are really small, it's going to be interesting to see how they're going to pull that off.
I don't understand where all of this is going.
Well,
like, logistically, this doesn't make sense.
Yeah. That was my biggest thing. Like, I looked at this, I was like, where is that going to be? And the best part of all this is it's going to be open by fall 2019.
Sure it is.
I mean, we saw how well that worked out for Mickey and Minnie.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I'm kind of excited. Like, this will be... I said this to you guys. Like, we don't go to the Grand Floridian a lot just because, like, I feel very weird there. It's very, like, high-end.
Underdressed.
Yeah. It's very high-end. But this will be a reason for me to go check it out. So I guess that's kind of cool.
Yeah, I mean, I'm all for making upgrades or, I don't know, cool, immersive bars and whatever, but I just wish they had figured out something that they could do that made it feel less forced. Like, I don't know really what they could have done, but it feels so forced to me that they're throwing Beauty and the Beast in this resort.
Yeah, I get that.
But I'm sure it'll be nice. I'll definitely go check it out. And Disney knows that, so.
And Disney knows all they have to do to get you to go somewhere is put a bar on property.
I mean, this is true.
And then the last news story that we have is that it looks like they've started with the construction on River Country. The water park is now completely demolished to make way for the new hotel. Kind of a little bit of a lackluster thing to end this on because there wasn't a lot of news. But River Country is now a pile of dirt.
You know, as much as it needed to get torn down because it was an eyesore in the state that it was in, it's still kind of sad for it to finally be gone for good.
Yeah.
I kind of, in the back of my...
Just confirms that it's not coming back.
I know. Kind of like in the back of my mind, I was like, well, what if they, like, used something, you know, at the new resort, just kind of like a throwback to it, but it is gone. It is a flat piece of earth now.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of, like, the interesting thing of all this is, like, I kind of felt that way too. Like, were they going to leave anything up, like, just to acknowledge that it was here or to, you know, give a subtle nod to it? But no, it is dirt. It is flat as can be.
I don't remember if we've talked about this, but can I just say how I don't appreciate Disney is deciding, like, hey, we're going to put all these new hotels, but we're going to make them look like Hiltons. Or, you know, generic, nice hotel chain.
I don't think we've talked about it, but I agree.
Like, if you look at the Riviera, Like, that looks like you could be at any hotel. The concept art for this one that they're putting at River Country, same thing. Like, it could be anywhere. It could be any hotel in a various number of places. And it's called Reflections. Like, what? What is it? Like, what does it even mean? I guess because it's on the lakeside?
I guess.
But it's just so vanilla.
I don't think I've actually even looked at like the concept art or anything for this. Maybe I have and I'm just not remembering it. But like pulling it up now. Oh yeah, I do remember this now. It does look totally like a Hilton. It's the tower design and like the modern architecture. It's not really anything special.
Right? It's like, honestly, I feel like I would rather stay at like one of the values because at least it has some character.
Exactly. Like if I'm staying on the Disney property, I want it to be themed to something, not just a nice hotel.
Right. I could stay at a nice hotel off property for half the price.
Mm-hmm.
I think the big thing about this one is it's going to be DVC. So, like, I don't know. To me, I feel like some of the DVC resorts lack a lot in theming. I know I've talked about, like, you know, I don't really care for Saratoga Springs or Old Key West, but I guess this is kind of along the same vein.
Yeah, but then the other resorts have DVC options too, and they're extremely highly themed, you know?
Yeah. Well, that's the weird thing is, like, there's no middle ground for that. Like, you have the three that we just talked about, and then you have, like, the Polynesian, the Grand Floridian, like, the Contemporary, well, I don't know. I'm going to get flack for this, but I feel like the Contemporary kind of falls in that bottom tier category, too. The best part about the Contemporary is the view, though.
Yeah, the Contemporary is kind of generic, too, for sure.
So,
but I mean, I guess it's the Contemporary, so
yeah,
that is the theme.
Well, that's such a weak theme. Like, I feel like that and like Old Key West with it being Key West, like that isn't a theme to me.
I find that interesting because it's like, let's theme this hotel to some like another place in Florida,
another Florida destination. Oh, anyway, are you guys ready to talk about our topic this week? So, like I said, we're going to talk about some IPs that Disney either had but weren't actually Disney IPs and they're not in the park anymore. And then we're going to talk about a big one that Disney could have had but totally missed out on. So the first one that I have on this list is the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which had like a meet and greet show thing at MGM Studios, which I should probably preface this and say that pretty much all of these were at Hollywood Studios.
I was about to say, you might want to put out that MGM Studios is Hollywood Studios for those youngins out there.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I think this whole thing just speaks volumes to Disney, you know, trying to get MGM Studios out there to beat Universal to the punch and not really knowing what they wanted to do with it.
You know, what's really funny about this, too, like, as I was looking at a lot of this stuff, I kind of got weirdly nostalgic for old Hollywood Studios.
Oh my god, me too. I kind of like when it didn't have any, like, rhyme or reason to it.
Well, so the biggest thing here is a lot of this took place on the backlot sets, and that's a part of Hollywood Studios that I really miss. And, like, there wasn't anything there. That's the funny part, is, like, the Streets of America and all that, like, didn't have an attraction or anything that was really their, like, big draw. It was just, like, you could hang out on a movie set street, and it was just the coolest atmosphere that you could possibly have, which I guess Universal kind of has that, too, but it's not the same. And I don't know. I was looking through this stuff and looking at pictures, and I started to really miss old Hollywood Studios. But before we dive into this, I know Beth said this before, that we should probably put out a disclaimer that this is just the stuff that we could find, stuff that was interesting, and like just weird and out there, stuff that we felt that we could actually talk about, because there's a lot of stuff online and we don't want to, not touch something that maybe someone else knows about that we had trouble finding or didn't think we could really talk too much about.
Yeah, so if anybody hears or knows of something that they don't hear us talk about and you would like to, I'm sure we could do a part 2 to this episode. Oh,
I'm sure. This was so much fun to look into. But let's dive into this Ninja Turtles show really quick, because there was a lot of these show meet and greet things were kind of to either promote the characters or in place of a meet and greet where today, you'd walk into Princess Storybook Hall and the princesses are there waiting for you, or even a couple of the meet and greets that are outside, you see the character come out with their attendant. A lot of these meet and greets would start with shows, and then you would be able to meet the characters after their show. So, oddly enough, exactly how Universal does all of their meet and greets. But the Ninja Turtles one, the Turtles would pull up in their van. They would come out on stage, the stage that they had there, and they would do some karate dance moves to their theme song. They would also be accompanied by their reporter friend April O'Neil and an announcer who would introduce the Turtles one at a time, though, of course, Michelangelo would be distracted and miss his cue because he was busy ordering a pizza. The show was about 4 minutes long and was performed at various times throughout the day, lasted till about 1995, but was later replaced with Muppets on Location, which we also talked about in a previous episode. And apparently this wasn't a property that Disney owned. This was something that they actually licensed the rights for. And I think a lot of this stemmed because there's a photo floating around online, and I think this was where the conversation really started with this for us. If you search Disney MGM Studios, there's a photo online of Ariel and Eric, the dinosaurs, the Ninja Turtles.
From Dinosaur.
Oh, yeah, Dinosaur from Dinosaurs. The TV show, and that's also kind of dating it a little bit because Disney has another property called Dinosaur. Who else is in here? Roger Rabbit.
Some Star Wars characters that I totally messed up when we were talking afterwards.
I was waiting for you to say it to see if you said it again.
I was like, what are they? Wookiees?
Well, there is.
They're Ewoks.
There is a Wookiee in there. I mean, Chewbacca's there. C-3PO's in this picture. Ewoks and Belle and Beast are here. And Roger Rabbit. I don't know if I said Roger Rabbit. Oh, Indiana Jones is also here, too. So, a very interesting, mismatch of characters.
It's like Brian said, awkward family photo. Wasn't that you, Brian?
That wasn't me, but that is definitely what this is.
I don't think that was me either, so maybe you said it.
Oh my god, maybe I made it up in my head. I'm so smart. No, I'm just kidding.
I think the other funny thing about this, too, is I'm pretty sure this was before Disney owned Star Wars. So, 95% of that picture is not Disney IP.
Yeah?
Yeah, because, I mean, if you think about it, really the only, Disney properties would have been, partially Roger Rabbit, because they didn't fully ever own the rights to him, I don't think. Ariel and Eric, and then Belle and Beast. And then, technically, Dinosaurs would be Jim Henson, so they didn't own any of that property yet. Super bizarre.
I mean, I guess the fact that it was called Disney MGM speaks to itself.
That's true. Did you guys have anything you wanted to say about the Ninja Turtles?
Well, this still, weirds me out. I know I told you guys this, but my boyfriend used to go to Disney a lot as a kid, and he was showing me his old autograph books, and there was one that was very obviously a stamp, but it was, there was one for each Ninja Turtle, and I was like, why are these in your Disney autograph book? This isn't Disney. And he's like, they were at Disney World. They did meet and greets at Disney World. And I was like, no, they didn't. And he showed me pictures, and I was like, what? It blew my mind. I'm just like, I guess it's not as weird as, thinking back on how much they did have that wasn't Disney, but I don't know. Ninja Turtles was definitely an interesting one.
Yeah, that was certainly one I was not really thinking about when I think Disney. Kind of to tie into this, I'm going to jump ahead a little bit. It looks like part of the reason that the Ninja Turtles died out was because they started to lose popularity to Power Rangers, which was a Disney property for a little bit. And then Disney, I guess, didn't renew their licensing contract for the Ninja Turtles, and they started having the Power Rangers meet and greet in the parks as well, before they sold their rights back to the original owners of the Power Rangers in '95. So another fun little Hollywood Studios MGM thing.
Was there ever Power Ranger stuff in the parks?
The Power Rangers themselves, but that was it.
Weird.
I feel it's kind of like a slap in the face for your IP if you sell it to Disney, and even Disney's like, yeah, we can't do anything with this.
Yeah.
Take it back.
From what I remember, like, I'm not a Power Rangers person, but I know that, like, I've read a lot of things from, like, angry Power Rangers fans that, like, Disney totally butchered the Power Rangers. So, like, from my understanding, Disney probably bought them after, like, a couple bad movies, or, like, they just weren't sure where to go with them next. Disney did some stuff with them, and they're like, yeah, we're not feeling it, and then they probably sold them back. But then the next one on this list is one that I lost a lot of time to promote the 1995 film Ace Ventura: When Nature Calls. A small stunt show featuring Ace Ventura was placed on the New York backlot to promote the film. Do we even want to go through this whole, like...
Yes, we have
Absolutely we do.
Oh, God, okay. So, I watched the full video, read, like, 4 articles, and still cannot believe that this was a thing that was actually in Disney. So, how the stunt show would go is there would be an MC that would stand on a stage, and he would basically tell the crowd that Ace was going to come out to talk about his new film, which... that blows my mind in itself. Like, Disney is so big on character integrity, and the fact that they were just like, yeah, Ace Ventura is going to come talk about his film is just, like, this weird sense of meta that I don't like. Anyway, the character would call out for Ace Ventura to come out, and he would miss his cue twice before the MC would have to remind him that that was his cue and he was supposed to come out. Instead of coming out of his office, Ace would appear on top of the building next to the MC, grapple down through the building, or down off of the building, land next to the MC, do a couple catchphrases, and talk to the crowd for a couple seconds before they would notice a large spider on top of the building that Ace just grappled down from. He would then run across in the opposite direction to his office while the MC is yelling at him to go get the spider that he left on the building. You would hear some noises come out of his office. Ace would pop his head out of the office after you hear the sound of a toilet flushing, tell the crowd not to go in there, and make like a gesture as if the bathroom smelled bad. He would climb out of the window on top of the building, climb up the building, and then zipline across to the other building that he came down from initially, and then wrestle with the spider for like what felt like forever. This was a very long scene of him wrestling with the spider, and at first it pops up on his back. And I have to say, the video that I watched, this lady clearly had seen this show a couple times, because before they even showed the spider on his back, the lady was like, "It's on your back." And then he turned around and the MC was like, "It's on your back." I was like, oh no.
She's probably one of those people that recites in the stretching room at Haunted Mansion.
Oh no. So he would wrestle it off of his back, and he would turn around to the crowd again after he thought he lost it, and he would look down to his waist area where the spider would be hanging out. He would make a joke saying that he forgot to check his fly.
Yeah.
And then he...
pun.
That's a pun I can't even tolerate. and then he would wrestle the spider, and I think he did rappel back down the side of the building. I don't know. Most of this was just like a box that Ace just went in and did horrible puns and jokes and things that were even bad for me. There was an alternate show that I couldn't find a video of, but a few of the articles that I found referenced this. But the alternate show, Ace would pull up in his car and search for a missing albino bat. Regardless of which show the guests would see, Ace would meet after each for one of two photo spots that would be alongside his little show area.
Well, alrighty then.
This just, from, like, I didn't watch the entire video, but from what I did watch, and obviously from what you just said, this is like a lot of physical, like, back and forth, up and down. Like, I'm kind of shocked that they could find enough people to play in this.
And that they had this extensive of a stunt show for Ace Ventura.
Yeah.
I don't, guys. I don't know. I don't know if I can, like. This is the one thing I looked at and I was like, part of me wishes that I saw this because this just doesn't feel like it was there.
Yeah, it doesn't feel right.
So, was Ace Ventura like a touchstone picture? Why was Disney putting so much into promoting this?
That's a good question that I need to figure out the answer to.
Because I'm just thinking, like, man, they were clearly using it as like an advertisement if he came out there and was announcing his new movie coming out. So it's like, why did they have such an interest in it, you know?
Yeah, that's a very valid question.
Distributed by Warner Brothers.
That makes even less sense.
I know. What is going on?
Wow.
Yeah. So I guess they were just really banking on this being that popular of a show that it would be worth their efforts.
All right. Now I'm in the rabbit hole of Ace Ventura Wikipedia. And let me tell you about the critical reception on this, because this movie has a 33% on Rotten Tomatoes based on 24 reviews, which, all right, that makes sense. It won, or under the accolades, it has 1996 American Comedy Award, 1996 Kids' Choice Award, Favorite Movie and Movie Actor, both of which it won. 1996 MTV Movie Awards, it won Best Male Performance, Best Comedy Performance, and was nominated for Best Kiss.
Oh my God.
And then in the 1996 Razzie Awards, it won Worst Remake or Sequel. Or no, it was nominated for Worst Remake or Sequel. And then the 1996 Stinkers Bad Movie Awards, it was nominated for Worst Picture, Worst Actor, and the sequel nobody was clamoring for. It won Worst Sequel and Most Painfully Unfunny Comedy.
Man, they were tearing it apart.
So, like, why was Disney trying to push this movie?
I don't know, man. This is a mystery that needs to be solved.
Oh, goodness. Well, to dive off of Ace Ventura as quickly as I possibly can, this next one's not really an IP, but I find this really funny. Apparently, David Copperfield was supposed to have a restaurant in MGM. In 1996, David Copperfield decided that he wanted to venture into the restaurant world and do a series of chain restaurants similar to like Planet Hollywood, but this time they would be themed more to like magic, past and present kind of thing. And he initially planned to open a like central location in New York in Times Square. There would also be one in MGM Studios and Pleasure Island as well. He cited Walt as a role model growing up, and when it came time for him to open his restaurants, he knew that Walt Disney World would be like the perfect place for it. He met with Michael Eisner and the Disney board in 1996, both of which thought it was a great idea and greenlit the restaurant right away for summer of 1998. Billboards were placed around MGM Studios as well as the walkway to downtown Disney. Now, the funny thing about this is this entire restaurant was funded by investors, and Disney had no money wrapped up in it, and David Copperfield had no money wrapped up in it. And when it came time for him to build his first restaurant in New York, he blew through the budget entirely on props. So they quietly closed the project in Disney and in New York, and the only people that were hurt were all of his investors.
Wow. What a wild turn of events.
The funny thing is, like, I had no idea that this was a thing until I was looking at one of the sites that I sourced in here a lot, Walt Dated World, and there was a article on Hollywood Studios, and it was just like attractions that never made it, and most of them, like, it was stuff I knew about, and then it just like casually said, and a magic restaurant featuring David Copperfield, and I went, wait, what?
You know, at least that would have been a very, fitting piece to the MGM theme.
I also think if it like managed to make it past like the prop building stage, it probably would have still stuck around. I mean, look at how long Planet Hollywood stayed around for.
That's a good point, yeah.
It's wild. So the last one that we have on things that were actually in the parks or were coming to the parks that weren't technically a Disney IP, I found this out moments before we started recording, so this is going to be a fun one to invest in with all of our listeners. Apparently there was a Goosebumps show that lasted for a single year at MGM Studios. There are very little articles explaining any of this, and the only thing that I could find was the Goosebumps Goosebumps Horrorland Fright Show wiki, and 2 videos on YouTube, both of which were like, one was 9 minutes long, and there was the first part of it, and then the other one was 6 minutes long. So I quickly watched both of those at 2 times speed and read over this. This is probably one of the more baffling things that Disney has done. So the Goosebumps show ran from October 8th, 1997 to November 1st, 1998. So just a little over a year. The show starts just like a TV show, or starts like the TV show opening with a man in black clothing walking with a suitcase as the theme song plays. After the man goes behind the curtains, Amazo the magician pops out to start his magic act, which that's fairly normal, but this is where things start to get bizarre. He calls 2 members of the audience, 2 kids, up to do an arm cutting trick, and in the video he puts like one kid's hand in like, it's this box and it's got like a saw, and the 2 kids put their hands through like these little holes in the thing, and he drops it, and when he lifts it up there's hands that are stuck to it. I watched it like twice and I couldn't figure out how they did that, but it was really weird. So after that, after he successfully does the trick, he asks the kids to try another trick with him where they step into a box with a lowering layer of spikes. And this is like it's this big rollout, like wardrobe sized box that they walk into. And then like, as they step in, like this layer of spikes like descends from the ceiling in this, it doesn't look great way. He like waves a curtain over or he like shuts the curtain, and he can't get the door open, and when he does eventually get the door open, Slappy the dummy, I'm very unfamiliar with Goosebumps, but like what I do remember,
like iconic Goosebumps.
Yeah, so what I do remember from Goosebumps is this, because this thing was creepy. It's not even like a small like what you would imagine life-size version of this would be. It's like Meet the Muppets or Here Come the Muppets sized costume characters steps out of this box instead of the kids. So Amazo demands answers for where the kids are, and Slappy replies by saying that he will make the audience his slaves. So while trying to make Slappy disappear, instead Curly the skeleton appears above the stage. Curly announces the arrival of the mummy as it appears from the stage. He and Slappy attack Amazo, throwing him off the stage, or throwing him into a cage. Wow. And then the monsters do a magic trick of their own where Cuddles the hamster appears from the cage. I don't know that character. I don't know how familiar you guys are with Goosebumps.
I'm not familiar with that one. I watched them a lot as a kid, but that one is definitely not ringing a bell.
Yeah, well, some of these are, but like, this is so bizarre. Curly announces that he and his monster friends will keep the audience prisoners until Lord High Executioner and the two haunted masks come from the, until the Lord High Executioner and the two haunted masks come out from the curtain and scare all the monsters away. Which it then reveals that the Executioner is Amazo and the two kids are the haunted masks, and the show ends. It also says Amazo then tells the people to check out the Goosebumps Funhouse. Was that a thing at Disney too? Did I miss that?
I do not remember that at all. Yeah, I mean, this seems like something that was, I mean, it didn't have a long run, but it seems like it would be something that would at least be easy to find information on, that it ran for long enough. But yeah, there doesn't seem to be much on this.
All right, so I searched for Goosebumps Funhouse Disney, and it brought me to a Rob Plays video. I apparently missed this one because I usually watch most of his stuff, and yeah, I'm gonna have to watch it. It looks like he did a 5-minute long video on this show. Huh.
Sweet. Kind of an aside, I don't know if y'all noticed, but they added Goosebumps, like the old show, to Netflix probably like a month and a half, 2 months ago, something like that. And I went back and watched some of these, and you want to talk about a show that does not hold up well? Oh my goodness.
I cannot imagine that holds up very well at all.
Yeah, no, it's some of the costumes and stuff are pretty rough.
You said it's on Netflix?
Yeah, they added I think it was all of the whole series from back in the day, and man, seriously, some of the costumes look like cheap, just like you could go to a Halloween store and put them on stuff. Like it was very, very low budget.
See, it's probably because they just started putting those movies out for Goosebumps, so it's probably like something to tie in with that. But I don't know. So I'm looking at another website about this Goosebumps Horrorland Fright Show and Funhouse. To tie this back in, this is what replaced Ace Ventura. And it was eventually replaced by Mulch, Sweat, and Shears. I don't know if you remember that. Oh, that wasn't like a show, but it was, or not a show. That wasn't like an IP-based thing, but they were the landscaping truck that drove around and played music. That was from that ended probably 2016-ish. It was like right before studio started getting like its big overhaul. But that was like a Streetmosphere show kind of thing.
I don't remember that one.
That was kind of a cool one. I mean, that's not, I don't know. That's one of those things that I'm not surprised it disappeared, because Disney's been doing away with Streetmosphere, and this was just kind of like a street performance kind of thing. But I don't know. So you guys ready to dive into this last one that's kind of the big thing? So the last thing we have on this list is IPs that Disney could have had but missed out on. And I'm sure everyone's probably aware of where we're going with this, at least if you read up on like Disney history and rumors and stuff. But it was reported a while ago. The first article I found was back in 2003, and it's probably important to note that most of this comes from Jim Hill. And while I do enjoy Jim and his podcasts that he runs and the blog that he runs, a lot of the information that he cites, while supposedly comes from inside sources, some of it, well, probably about 50% of it comes true, and then another 50% of it is just inside rumbling kind of things.
You have to take everything Jim Hill says with a grain of salt.
Yeah, that's the best way to put it. Jim cites in this initial article that in 2003, there was a conference call for Universal higher-ups, and they asked if they would be interested in either purchasing the rights to Harry Potter or Lord of the Rings for a theme park IP. And the man, I didn't write this guy's name down, but whoever was giving the presentation said that Disney actually had the rights to Harry Potter under wrap, and they would look towards Lord of the Rings as their theme park IP instead. Which that's kind of an interesting thing to think about right off the bat.
Man, I am a huge Lord of the Rings fan, but I have no idea how they could do that in a theme park.
Yeah. But apparently Jim did some digging around, and he was able to find some information on this initial land that Disney had kind of wanted to build. It wasn't actually a large scale land like the Wizarding World is. They wanted to put it in Fantasyland with 2 attractions and a quick service restaurant that would be themed to the Leaky Cauldron.
The idea of that makes me want to throw up.
Yeah, so
It being in Fantasyland.
there's a lot of this that is like, what? So the first attraction would be similar to Buzz Lightyear's Astro Blasters and Space Ranger Spin, where you would have kind of like a target to aim at kind of thing, but instead of having a gun, you would have a wand on your cart, and you would be going through like a Defense Against the Dark Arts class.
Can you guys imagine having a wand that's attached to your car?
That sounds like such a bad idea. Like, this is the one that I think they maybe probably could have pulled off somehow, but, like, I don't know. This is just, like, so bizarre to me. I just can't see it working with the way that they have, because, I don't know. Everything's so, like, stationary about that attraction. Like, even with how it's attached, they'd probably have to have it, like, you know how when you go to a store and, like, there's the things in like the electronic sections, like if you go over to a camera, you have to pick it up and it's got that tether to it. Mm-hmm. Like that's how I picture the wand being tethered to the cart. But the second attraction would be like a magical creature petting zoo, similar to the raptor encounter at Islands of Adventure. I don't know how, like, I part of me can't see either of those things in Disney.
Wait, a petting zoo?
Yes, a petting zoo. But the way that he explained it was similar to the raptor encounter at Islands of Adventure, and I don't, like, that doesn't scream petting zoo to me. That's like a meet and greet with a raptor.
Man, I'm really glad this fell through.
Right? I'm like, I hate to say it, but it sounds like Universal did way
Yeah,
better
for
than
real.
Disney would have.
Yeah, Disney was not going to do this right. Man.
That is like blowing me away how bad this sounds and Disney's ideas.
So here's the funny thing, because the ones I like went way out of order with this, but apparently, like, when I was reading the article, Jim couldn't get anyone at Disney to actually confirm any of this, so I don't know where he pulled this from. Like, this is what I was saying, like, we have to take everything he says with a grain of salt. And like one of the quotes was, from that article is, but in all conversations I've had with WDI insiders over the past few weeks, no one, and I mean no one, was willing to actually go on record and admit that Walt Disney Company had indeed tied up all the theme park rights to Harry Potter characters. The closest I ever got to confirmation was a couple of knowing smiles from veteran Imagineers, as well as a sorry, that would be telling from someone in the studio's legal department. So again, like, this may have been the rumor, but there may have been more planned for this. This is just all that's like on the internet about it.
And I certainly hope this wasn't all. This was like them spitballing.
Oh gosh. But interestingly enough, apparently he went to some Universal sources and asked around there and got like some more in-depth answers. Like, he actually was able to say that he did get these answers, so that's kind of cool. He said that Universal's original idea that they were going to pitch to Rowling was a Harry Potter stunt show.
My
Can they just stop with the stunt shows? Jeez.
Well, just wait till I explain this, because this actually sounds decent enough. It sounds better than what Disney was planning to do. Basically, the plot of the stunt show was going to be like a standalone Harry Potter story. It wasn't going to fall within any of the like stories that were already written for the books, or at this point it was 2003, so like this wasn't falling in any of the stories that they were telling.
So not canon.
Yeah, basically.
I'm uninterested.
Well, so here's the thing.
kidding.
It said like it was going to be its own standalone story. So I don't know if it was going to be canon or if it wasn't going to be canon. But basically, what was going to happen was Harry, Ron, and Hermione were going to be featured in the stunt show. I don't know if they were like going to do animatronics or like have actors or whatever. But they would do a couple magic tricks, and that was all this article said. But the climax of the show would feature a animatronic Lord Voldemort who would fight the heroes of this show, and it would end with Voldemort bursting into flames and screaming in pain before disappearing before guests' eyes.
So is this like the Wizard of Oz scene in Great Movie Ride? Like, is that what's happening?
So.
Oh man! So, I can't believe Rowling gave the rights to anybody after hearing
These awful bitches.
So here's the funny thing. Apparently, Universal never actually got to pitch that to Rowling, because when they went to go...
So that's why she ended up going with them.
So apparently they went to go pitch this to her, and when they got to like someone that worked for her, they were met with a thanks, but no, we've given the theme park rights to someone else. So initially, I think there probably was some rumblings of Disney actually having the rights, or them in talks with it, because we've talked about, or it's been talked about on the internet that she was in talks with Disney for the rights of her characters in the theme parks, but the only thing was she wanted creative control over the characters, and that wasn't something that Disney was willing to give, which, yeah. I don't know. I am more inclined to believe that that's the case than anything else here, that like Disney said, yeah, we want to use your characters in the parks and we want to build some kind of Harry Potter themed land. And then Rowling was like, okay, but I have to do this because she still won't let go of Harry Potter. And they were like, no, we want Imagineering to have full control over this, and she wouldn't take that, so she went next door. That is my theory.
But so from what you got here, so Universal went to pitch this really bad idea to Rowling. Rowling said that she'd already given the rights to someone else. So was she just kind of, I guess, trying to wait it out then, and then ended up giving the rights to Universal down the road, I guess, once the movies became successful and everything?
Maybe. That's where it kind of becomes speculation, is like, Disney may have had the rights at that point, and there may have been like talks of it, but then the whole deal was broken when they weren't willing to give her that control that she wanted. So that's kind of like the rumbling that you find on most like message boards and stuff, is that like, oh yeah, they had plans to do this. She was going to give Disney everything, and then they said, you have no part in creating any of this, and she just wasn't having it.
Yeah, I can definitely. I mean, everybody knows how like protective she is over her characters, so I can understand why that would be a definite no-go for her.
Yeah, she is. I don't know if this is the place to talk about this, but do you guys like see all of the stuff that she posts on the internet about her characters?
All the updates to the characters.
She's gotten a little bit much in recent days, years, months, whatever.
I want to know, at what point does she just decide that she's done? Like, when is she gonna hang up the Harry Potter hat?
Yeah, I know. I never read the what was the kind of like fan fiction book that came out that she kind of embraced and said it was canon. And I know everybody was complaining that it's like, this completely, goes against the stuff that she said in the original series.
Oh, the one that was like a stage musical?
No. Or was it a stage musical?
Yeah, there was one that was like, was it The Cursed Child? Because that
one.
It was actually, the book itself was written like a music, or like a stage production.
But no, well, I thought she wrote that.
I don't think she did.
See, that was the thing. She didn't write it, but she like gave her blessing for it, I guess. I know they put her name on it, but yeah, apparently she was not the one that actually wrote the book.
Huh. Wow. Yeah, they definitely made it seem like she did.
Yeah, so Harry Potter and the Cursed Child Parts 1 and 2, based on an original news story by J.K. Rowling, John Tiffany, and Jack Thorne. New play by Jack Thorne.
Huh. Well, I've read it, and it's actually really good, in my opinion. I haven't seen the play, but...
You may be the only one that thinks that.
Really? I enjoyed it. I don't know.
I don't even keep up with Harry Potter stuff that much, but even I like heard so many negative reviews about the book, so...
Yeah, it's funny, though, when you said... You were talking about, you said something like, what was the fan fiction, blah, 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 and immediately my brain went to My Immortal. And then you said that JK gave her blessing, and I was like, oh, that is definitely not My Immortal then.
As soon as you said that, I was like, oh no, I didn't think about that, but best go with there.
Oh my gosh, I have to go. Every chance I get, I have to go to My Immortal. That is the most ridiculous stuff I've ever read. If you guys out there listening haven't, please look it up. You're in for a treat.
Oh, goodness.
My favorite part of My Immortal is when they go to Hogsmeade for the Good Charlotte concert.
Have you read this, Brian?
I've seen bits and pieces of the story, but I haven't actually sat down and read it.
Okay.
Might be the worst thing that anyone has ever written in the history of the world.
It's supposed to be satire, right? Like, it's not supposed
to
be...
No, I think a 13 or 14-year-old wrote this in seriousness.
And all the dramatic readings on YouTube are
like... Oh my gosh, those are great.
Oh, goodness. So, did you guys have any final thoughts on the topic of Disney IPs that aren't actually Disney IPs?
I don't think so. I do think it'd be interesting, like I said earlier, for us to do a part 2 to this, because I know there are others that we don't have the time to talk about in this episode.
Yeah, I would be interested to see if any of our listeners know of any that we missed out on. I know, like, I purposely didn't look into, like, dinosaur and stuff like that, but thinking about it before we started this episode, I think at this point, Disney was just licensing the Muppets characters and all that. So they weren't technically owned by Disney. And at the same time, Star Wars wasn't either. So they weren't technically Disney IP yet. So. Interesting. But it looks like we have some listener feedback that we can touch on before we close out this week, if you guys want to talk about those.
Yeah.
So the first one comes from Jack via YouTube. In regards to our C episode, he said, I enjoyed this, but C isn't the only Imagineering group that's influenced the development of attractions in Disney properties. To a lesser extent, there's something to be said for Plus Ultra as a fictional society driving Disney storytelling. This was a while ago. I'm so sorry that we're just now getting back to this, Jack. But yeah, that's, I don't know too much about Plus Ultra.
No, but sounds interesting.
It's from Tomorrowland.
Like the
Have you
movie or like
Yeah,
actual?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like a group that supposedly consisted of like Tesla and Edison, and they did all of the really innovative stuff and had a secret meeting place at the top of the Eiffel Tower. It's actually really interesting. I totally agree. We'll have to dig into it and maybe throw some stuff together for episode, or part of an episode at least.
I'd be interested in doing that. I'm always down to explore some hidden Disney backstories.
For sure.
And then the next one came from a email from listener Rebecca. Directed this one towards me and said, congratulations on your epic proposal. I got to thinking about what she said about not being able to go to Disney again for a while because of wedding planning. I'm getting married in May, so I could sympathize with you there for sure. However, I wanted to give you guys an idea to mull over, and she suggested that it's not uncommon to forego a gift registry and instead set up a honeymoon registry. And as clearly that Disney is a major part of our lives, it's super easy to see that we're probably going to end up at Disney, and she suggested doing a Disney honeymoon registry, which I didn't know was a thing.
I didn't either. This is cool.
So did you guys take a look at this site by any chance? Because I played around with it a little bit when she sent this email.
I haven't. I mean, I won't be able to use it, but...
Well, so just looking at it, like it's definitely interesting. I don't know if this is something that I will use. I don't know if this is something that we'll end up using, because we are probably going to have to set up the gift registries. But you can allow guests to buy different things for you. Like you can have people chip in for your park tickets, or like excursions and things on the trip as well. So like you can have the option to put Cirque du Soleil tickets, or do like tours, so you could have them pay for like a Keys to the Kingdom tour or tickets to Blizzard Beach. And there's a whole bunch of stuff on here that it gives you the option to add on to the registry. And it's pretty cool because like there's one on here that's like accommodations for our resort hotel, and the sample says $100 each, and you can, like, if 10 people give you that, I'd imagine that would probably add up to a good chunk of your resort stay if you're not staying for that long. But yeah, it's pretty cool, and I played around with it a little bit. I think this is neat if you're looking to do a honeymoon registry. This is not something I even knew existed.
Yeah, me either. That's a really cool idea, though.
Yeah. Oh, look, there's an option for Victoria and Albert's on here.
Ooh.
Can I start one that's not a honeymoon? Just a, hey, you want to help me do things that I want to do registry?
Beth's bucket list registry.
There we go. Who
Yeah.
wants to contribute? Anyone?
I think people just do GoFundMe's for that.
You're not going to do a GoFundMe and competing with people that have, like, diseases and stuff. Come on.
But I really want to do it.
I mean, there was those girls that did a GoFundMe for Flower and Garden. Or Food and
What?
Wine. You didn't hear that? Oh my goodness. There was
How
a
much
while
did
ago.
they get?
I don't think they got anything. I'm pretty sure
Okay,
they took it
good.
down.
I say good, like I didn't just suggest doing the same thing for myself.
I'm like, man, it might have been Food and Wine, but there was it was two girls, and they put up a thing on GoFundMe, and if people contributed, they got to tell them what snacks they would buy at Food and Wine, and they were gonna vlog the whole thing. It was a train wreck, and I believe like Twitter went rampant over it.
Oh, you should have just donated and said all they could have was the the Aquavita at
Oh my gosh,
that'll teach them.
That would teach them for sure.
Then that's going to do it for us this week. Thanks for joining us again on another episode of the Station 71 podcast. If you like what you heard, be sure to subscribe to us on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts from. If you want to be a part of the show, reach out to us on our website at www.station71podcast.com, where you can find links to all of our social media, our email address, and our brand new Google Voice line where you can leave us a voice message. Have anything you want to hear us talk about? We'd be happy to discuss that on the next episode. We hope you enjoyed your ride, and we'll see you real soon.
Please stand clear of the doors. Por favor, manténganse alejado de las puertas.